I guess I should have learned my lesson from Eye in the Sky, because that had a terrible trailer that made me think it was going to be a horrible movie and I could completely pass. But then I ended up loving Eye in the Sky because it was actually really good. Edge of 17, trailer that looked really generic, quirky, and really just sort of clean PG-13 meh movie. Turns out it's a really damn good film. So plot-wise, Edge of 17 is your typical drama comedy based off of a teenage girl drama queen. Our main character is named Nadine, and she's played by Hailee Steinfeld. Now Nadine has had a pretty crummy life. And to add to that, she is a drama queen that believes that the world's out to get her, everything terrible happens to her, everything good happens to everyone else, and everything's all about her. And now Nadine is dealing with a few different things. Her best friend, her childhood friend, the only one who ever understands her, is now dating Nadine's older brother. The older brother that Nadine feels everything goes right for him. He's handsome, he's athletic, everything goes right for him. So she feels her friend has betrayed her. She also has the hots for this bad boy that she's never talked to. She wants to be with him, and unfortunately the world is going to end because she sent him a text, a very sexual text. And then the movie progresses from there. Well, it doesn't really progress from the text. The text kind of happens in the last act of the film, give or take. But the movie starts off after that text. You know the scene in the trailer where she goes to Woody Harrelson's like, my world's gonna end, look at what I sent this one boy. Yeah, the movie starts with that scene, and then it goes back to her childhood, the terrible things that happened in her life, and then the days leading up to that text. And then afterwards, as the movie wraps up. When I saw this trailer, and I saw this trailer many, many times in theaters, it just looked like a very squeaky clean PG-13, really generic quirkiness. And I like quirky movies, but this felt like a very generic version of this one cliched version of quirkiness. And so it really didn't look all that good to me. But then it got really good reviews. My cousin and his friend, who are moviegoers like me, who see a lot of different type of movies and like a lot of different types of things, they were really looking forward to this. And I was like, really? This movie you're looking forward to? But then they saw the movie, they loved it as well. And then I found out that the movie is actually rated R, which the trailer didn't really make it look like it was rated R. It looked like it was a generic PG-13 movie. So I'm like, okay, I'll see this in theaters. I won't wait till it comes out on DVD. I'll actually see it in theaters so I can do a review. And biggest surprise of the year for me. Second biggest is still Eye in the Sky. That blew me away at how good it was compared to the trailer. This one, as much as I was surprised with Eye in the Sky, I was even more surprised with Edge of 17. Again, I wasn't expecting it to be rated R. I wasn't expecting the kind of crude humor in the film. And this wasn't overly crude. This wasn't the crude humor that's just being there to be crude and outlandish and over the top. This was placed in very specific moments that made it feel natural. The acting and the characters were good throughout the entirety of the film. And as much as I think everyone did a really good job in this film, there's two standout roles that I'm going to remember for quite some time. Hailee Steinfeld is really great in this film. She did something that I didn't think was possible. She made a drama queen character that I actually like and enjoyed. Look, characters that are overly dramatic, characters that think, oh, this is really 10 times worse than it actually is, or maybe even 100 times worse than it actually is, and are very dramatic. They're drama queens. It's a certain personality that normally I can't stand. They're usually kind of things that I roll my eyes at and just think, look, you don't have it as bad as you think you have it. These are the type of characters I get annoyed with. Well, there's many types of characters I get annoyed with, but that's one of them. But Hailee Steinfeld plays a role, plays it in a way that I highly enjoyed it. I actually rooted for the character. I cared for the character. She's a very flawed character, I will say, because she's one of those characters that is self-absorbed, is selfish, thinks everything's out to get her, doesn't think about anyone else. But she goes through that emotional journey that leads her to realizing, look, I realize now that I'm flawed and I'm going to try to be better. It has that character arc in it. Even when she is selfish, even when she is self-absorbed, even when she thinks everything is worse than it really is, she still played this character in a way that was likable and funny. Really damn funny. She says some of the nastiest things to people in this movie. And some part of me thought, holy crap, that's horrible to say. But at that same time, I still liked her. I still found it funny. And there's something about it that wasn't as crazy or as negative or as mean as she plays it off to be. Especially when she has this one moment towards the beginning of the film where she actually feels for her mom and says something nice to her. So when it actually came to saying the nasty things to her family and friends, it didn't really feel genuine. It didn't feel like she was being really mean to them. It felt like the kind of things that you would say to family that you don't really mean. And so that helped it a little bit to becoming a very likable, funny part of the movie. But yeah, she was really great in this film. But another person that was also extremely great in this film, Woody Harrelson. Now, he probably plays typical Woody Harrelson, or at least I've probably seen him in several roles where he's like this. But I have to say, he is the really great counterpart to Nadine in this film. He's not in it throughout the majority of the film. He's only in it when she's in school and she's in the classroom with him, plus another moment where towards the end, which isn't the classroom. But he's the kind of teacher that doesn't take shit from anyone. And she says some nasty, horrible things to him, and he just beats her right back with other nasty and crazy things. Like, he can come back from it. He has comebacks for Nadine, and he's the great counterpart to her throughout the film. He's not like a main character that's continuously doing this, but every scene that he's in with her, he's really fantastic as well. These two play off each other extremely well. I think some of the funniest moments throughout the film is when these two are in the scenes together. Even though those two are the highlights of the film, there are plenty of other roles, plenty of other actresses and actors that did a really good job in this film. Now, this is going to sound crazy comparing this movie to another movie I'm about to compare it to, but hear me out on this, because this is very similar to Moonlight in the way that it really humanizes characters. Again, Moonlight, Edge of 17, very different films for very different reasons. I'm not trying to compare the entire movie. I'm just comparing a specific aspect of both films that they do well in very different ways. And that is to humanize the characters, make them feel real. And this feels like a harder thing to do for The Edge of 17 because it is a more dramatic film. It is a more comedic film. It's a more over-the-top film than Moonlight is. But at the same time, it still humanizes them in a way where they feel realistic. They feel like real people. Not as real as Moonlight, but they still feel real despite the over-the-topness, despite the crazy things that happen, despite the really funny crap that happens. But that leads to another thing that I found really interesting in the film. The film really takes place in Nadine's head in a way, but not completely. Like, we do have our scenes with other characters and other scenes where Nadine is not in the scene, but for the most part, we kind of see it through her eyes in a way where it plays off with her as the main character, of course, but all these dramatic things are happening, and you can kind of sort of argue that maybe some of the over-the-topness, maybe some of the really negative things that happen to her is kind of all in her head because she is self-absorbed. She does feel like the world's out to get her. And so that sort of adds to the comedy and adds to the drama. But at the same time, the perspective of the film is far back enough that we as the audience can see, yeah, we see different things than Nadine. We see who these people really are and see that they're not as bad as Nadine thinks they are. It's one of those things where we're in on it. We realize what's happening before Nadine does and before Nadine has her self-discovery. There's a lot of subtle dramatic moments that are good, and there's a lot of really laugh out loud funny moments. I was laughing or smiling throughout this entire film, which is really hard to do. Well, except for the moments where it's supposed to be sad, and except for the moments where it's supposed to be dramatic. Every time that it's supposed to be funny, like I said, I was either smiling or laughing the entire time. Even the introduction, when she is going through her life and saying, oh, my life is terrible, everyone else is good, and you're sort of like, okay, this is overdramatic and crazy. We can see how much of a flawed character she is, how much she over-dramatizes things, and I was just having a fun time with it. Especially the first scene, the first time when she actually goes back into the past, because, again, like I said, the movie starts off with her charging up to Woody Harrelson, showing him the text message that she gave to the boy she has a crush on. After that scene, it goes back in time, shows her as a kid, shows her when she meets her best childhood friend, and then how they grow up together, and then the days leading up to the text message. But during the little introduction where her life goes to crap, and she's like, that first scene reminds me so much of my sister. The scene is Nadine is a kid. She doesn't want to get out of the car. She's pouting. She's like, I am not getting out of this car. But she's not saying it in any sort of... But she's not saying it. She's just, physically, she's like, I'm not going to leave this car. I'm going to pout. I'm going to stay in here. And the mother wants to get her out. It's an over-the-top scene, a really funny scene. But all I can remember and all I can think about is my sister when it was either first or second grade. She would not get out of the car. And I think it was because they were late to school and it was raining. And she was like, no, I'm not going out of the car. And my mom's like, get your ass out of the car. Like, there's something about that scene that I can relate to, that I can imagine, and it just feels relatable and as crazy as it is, and it just made me smile personally. But for me personally, the funniest thing in the film, now I'm not going to give away the joke, but I'm going to give some sort of reference, so whether you've seen the film or haven't seen it and want to see it, you know what to look for. There's a reference to the movie Twins, the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, where they're supposed to be twins. There's a reference to that film, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew that was the setup. The setup was a reference to twins, and I knew what it was going to lead to. But even though I knew what it was going to lead to, the biggest laugh out loud moment I had in the entire movie. Now, this is a very predictable movie. Despite its over-the-topness, despite its quirkiness, there are elements of the film that you know exactly how they're going to play out. And they play out almost exactly the way you think they would. With that said, it's still crafted in a mature way and in a way that is commendable. That is very hard to say that cliched thing is a very flawed thing. To be honest, I can't think of any real negatives that I had with the film other than it's not 5-star worthy for me. And that's really hard to say because I am really on the edge of giving it a 5-star. But I'm going to give Edge of 17 4.5 stars. It's more of a 4 3/4, but I don't do quarters, I only do halves and wholes. So for now, Edge of 17 has 4.5 stars. So did you see the Edge of 17? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. If not, what is your favorite teenage comedy drama of all time? And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015 and 2016. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.